Hi, and welcome to week 4 of our 52-week wellness journey. In week 4, we're really going to talk today about meal planning and prep. I previously talked about how it's really important on a daily basis to get 3 full balanced meals. You can incorporate snacks into those meals, but really those 3 full balanced meals. So meal preparing, and planning is really important to get you on the right track. As a reminder, my name is Erin. I'm the owner of Emma Kate Enterprises and author to books like Women's Wellness Playbook for Success and Cortisol Detox Success. You can find it on Amazon and TikTok. I'm also a mom in her late 40s, a wife, working professional. Here on my own health journey, I've done a lot of research for my books, my content, my blogs on emmakenterprises.com. And now I'm taking all that information, research, content, what works, what doesn't, applying it to my life in this 52-week journey, sharing that with all of you so you can join this journey with me or find pieces of this journey as we go that you can incorporate into your life. So while a lot of what I do and write about is focused on women, there's a lot of pieces that can really extend across the family, to partners, to men as well, especially when we're talking about things like cortisol or mindfulness. That's great for the whole family. But today we're really going to talk about that meal planning and preparation today and how important it is to help make sure that you're getting healthy nutrients into your body to stay strong, stay motivated, stay energized, help balance hormones. We'll talk about some foods and food types that are great for keeping your hormones in balance for our women out there. So let's really talk about meal planning. Again, 3 meals a day is critical. So 3 full balanced meals. So breakfast, lunch, dinner. You can have that at a range of times, but really breakfast, you're thinking about an hour after getting up and definitely before that coffee if you can. Lunch midday. And then dinner, you want to make sure you're having that probably between 5 and 7, depending on when you go to sleep at night, because you want to make sure you leave plenty of time for digestion, likely get a walk in after that evening meal. So probably think about 2 hours before you're planning to go to bed or earlier. Really, the kitchen should close after that. I'm a big proponent of avoiding late night stacking because that just sits in your stomach. If you saw my evening routine video, you'll know though that I'm a proponent of like an evening warm water routine. So that's still important, but you don't want to have meals at night. Now, there's research that says different things. I know all of you out there have different things and you should do this or that. And a lot of it can be very contradicting. The big thing with eating late at night is it can impact your sleep. And so if you're eating a meal late at night before bed or having a heavy snack before bed, it can sit in your digestive system and you might develop acid reflux or indigestion in the middle of the night, which impacts that sleep and makes you wake up. And we've talked about this before. Sleep is critically important. It sets you up for the day. You need to get that 7 to 9 hours of sleep for cortisol regulation, hormone regulation, keeping that energy up, being able to make it through the day. Sleep is just that stepping stone or that foundation to setting up your whole day. So if you're doing things in the evening that actually hinder that sleep versus help that sleep, that's just going to make that sleep more difficult and make your next morning and day more difficult. So breakfast, lunch, dinner, really you do not need to have snacks. Again, there's varying research and evidence supporting one way or another around snacking or not snacking. There's also intermittent fasting out there, research pros and cons to that. So really what I'm teaching based on everything that I've learned and studied and all the pros and cons of all these different things. For us women especially, men could be different. So again, really focused on women, but it can apply to men, spouses, whole family, partners. is really having those 3 balanced meals a day. And then if you feel like you need to snack and have a snack because you can't make it to the next meal, having that full balanced snack and having things on hand. And so that goes to our planning. So let's talk a little bit about meal planning. It's really important for you to take a time each week to plan your meals for the week and make sure you have the ingredients and the pieces that you need to have your 3 balanced meals a week. And then if you're somebody that typically needs a snack or you're constantly on the run and may actually have moments where you're not able to have a full meal, it's really important to plan for snacks to make sure that you have the right things either in your pantry or with you in your bag, in your purse. So that way you're not left in a pinch and grabbing a coffee and a donut or something like that that just spikes your insulin and causes all kinds of concerns with your hormone balance. Now, I am far from perfect, and I am not saying anybody needs to be perfect. So the occasional chocolate croissant and a coffee is not going to put anybody off balance. It's really that consistency of always doing that as opposed to just doing that once in a while for an enjoyment, or you're in a pinch for the day, or you just need a little treat. The problem that some people run into is that every now and then indulgence becomes the usual and becomes what they do on the daily. Because there's always an excuse. You're always too busy, or you need a little treat, or whatever it might be. There's always a reason to stop and pick up something sweet or salty or indulgent or something quick. It's all about planning so that those times stay the exception rather than become the rule. That's one of my biggest roadblocks as a busy professional, a mom, a wife. There's a lot going on, right? And so when you're in a pinch, you're going to default to fast food or quick service or something indulgent because you had a hard day. If you plan your meals well and plan ahead, you don't fall into that trap of something that you should do every other week or so becoming an every other day or everyday thing. And that's one of my biggest things, as I said. So that's one thing on this 52-week journey that I'll definitely be working on, is continuing to be better about my meal planning and prep and making sure that I have the things necessary. So let's talk about specifics. So going back, so start your week, take time each week to plan. And you're gonna plan your meals for the week so that based on that plan, you can go grocery shopping, because you're gonna need a list of pieces to get at the grocery store. You're gonna have your staples, and then you're gonna have those things that you get every week. So you sit down, you plan, let's say 30 minutes. And as you do this more often, it'll get easier and easier. Because we're creatures of habit, we typically tend to lean toward the same things over and over again. You have foods that you like the most, that your family likes, your partner likes, and so you're gonna defer to those, or they're easier to prep or something like that. So this education, I mean, you can definitely have a plethora of different recipes and different things that you cook on the daily and on the weekly, but where I tend to fall toward is consistency and having similar or same things. When you start to have too much variety, one, you can get overwhelmed, and two, you're buying a lot of ingredients and different ingredients. So if you're somebody that's on a budget or trying to be very mindful with your dollars, which most of us are, right? And not, or like trying not to dispose of food and things like that, it's easier when you do more similar or the same meals than things different and very much variety. Now, some of you might be saying, well, I need a mix, I need a variety, and that's where it's perfectly fine to have different recipes. There's millions of blogs, videos, everybody has different recipes, recipe ideas, things like that. I'll give you some general tips of what you should include, but we won't be talking about recipes today. There's plenty out there, books, videos, blogs, articles, everything that has tons of recipes that you can use. So what I do is I plan for this pretty much the same breakfast every day. In a previous video, we talked about overnight oats, and that's really my go-to. It keeps it easy, keeps it simple. I know what I'm eating every day. I might add some variety where one day I might add some honey and bananas or peanut butter and bananas, or another day it might be Greek yogurt and berries. Some days walnuts and some berries. So that gives me a little bit of mix, but I'm always starting with that base, that foundation of the overnight oats. And then if there's other things that I want to add to mix it up, I can do that. And that way I know every morning I'm having a balanced meal. So something with protein, fiber, and healthy fats. So that's the key. You need protein, fiber, and healthy fats to have your balanced meal. And so that's important to have with every meal. And then also, again, if you're snacking, you want to make sure it's balanced. So we'll talk about some snack options as well. So I typically have the same breakfast every day, but if you need a little bit more variety than that, I mean, choose 2 to 3 breakfasts. You don't have to have 7 different breakfasts. Choose 2 to 3 and start to rotate, or add some variety like the overnight oats. Lunch, kind of the same thing. I stick to the same 2 or 3 lunches. Again, if you need a little bit more variety, you can add more than 2 to 3, maybe it's 5. But remember, you're also probably going to have leftovers when it comes to a lot of your meals. So you want to make sure that you're utilizing those leftovers as well. Because one, that helps save time, that I know many of you are very busy. And 2, it saves money as well. So you're not spending as much on as many meals, and you're also saving time from not having to cook as much. So I would say 3 to 5 different lunches that you can have, again, with your protein, carbohydrate or fiber, and your healthy fats, and then your dinner. And so dinner is typically the one that most people are gonna have a little bit more variety with. You're gonna have your protein staples that you use for dinner, but for dinner you might have 5 different varieties for the week. So based on that, you start to plan out your grocery list. So based on what you plan to make for the week to cover those, you have your grocery list, plus anybody else in your household that you need to account for. Now, snacks are also important if you want to incorporate snacks into your diet. Again, I'd mentioned you don't have to have snacks. You don't need to eat extra snacks through the day. We've become a snack society, and there's definitely research that shows the benefits of snacking or having 5 small meals a day, but then there's contradictory evidence of the opposite of that. And so with all the different information out there, I want to reinforce snacks are not required. But if you want some extra protein or extra calories, or you just can't make it through to your next full meal, snacks are where that can be really helpful. And so when you're having snacks, you want to make sure you're thinking about that protein, fiber, and healthy fat, at least having 2 out of 3 of those. So for example, you can have some nuts with berries, or seeds with berries. You can have some Greek yogurt with nuts and berries. You can have a banana with peanut butter. You can have a hard-boiled egg with some fruit. So there's a lot of different things that you can do for a snack, but with snacks, it's just really about pre-planning. There's so many packaged snacks out there and quick things that you can grab for snacks. So if you can plan ahead, this way you just have them in your refrigerator or in your cabinet or in your bag, so you can quickly grab those rather than a vending machine or a convenience store or stopping through a drive-through. So now, based on planning the week and what you plan to make for the week, you have your grocery list. And you can organize your grocery list based on your grocery store, or grocery stores if you go to multiple grocery stores. So some things to really consider when you're thinking about a balanced meal. So when we think about like lunch and dinner, that protein, so you're thinking about things like eggs, salmon, chicken, lean beef if you eat beef. You can put in beans or lentils for more of a vegetarian or vegan dish, but those are some great sources of protein. When we talk about fiber, There's your vegetable fiber and fruit fiber. So with every meal, you want to make sure you have a vegetable or a fruit for that nutritious, nutrient-dense fiber. But then there's also the fiber, like whole grain fiber or oats. So you got oats, you got quinoa, you got brown rice. Those are great sources of fiber and carbohydrates as well. And then you have your healthy fats, olive oil, coconut oil, avocado, eggs also include some healthy fats, and some meats include some healthy fats. You also have seeds and nuts are all part of that healthy fats. So those are just some things to think about when you're planning or choosing what recipes you do. You might have to make some simple swaps. I'll use an example. My family loves this chili mac that I make, but chili mac often is made with a macaroni, and macaroni is typically a white pasta. And so to make it a little bit better and more balanced, I want to make that a better fiber carbohydrate for my family, so we can swap for a whole grain type of pasta instead. So just some easy swaps you can make. You can have some recipes that you use already or family recipes that maybe you just need to make some simple tweaks. Rather than white rice, use brown rice, for example, or quinoa is another great option as well. So based on that, you plan out what you have for the week, you write your grocery list, you do your grocery shopping. Now the next piece is kind of prepping. And I'm not an over prepper. There are people out there that prep everything and have all their breakfasts laid out, their lunch, their dinners, which is amazing. That is amazing that some of you out there can do that and have the time to do all that prep. I do not have time for all that prep. And so the way that I go about prep is I typically do some type of prep twice a week. Likely you're not going to be able to prep an entire week. So either way, you're still going to have to divide it into two. And the other way I help with prep is I often make extra of something that I'm making. So for example, when I go grocery shopping, that evening, I might make taco bowls. And when I make taco bowls, I will specifically make extra rice and I'll make extra taco meat. This way I can store the rice for at least the next 3 to 4 days, and then I can store the taco meat. That makes a great lunch. I do love my taco bowl lunches. I can make that very nicely balanced with some vegetables in there. And so I will have my taco meat and my brown rice sitting in the refrigerator, just simply based on making dinner that night. And really there's no extra work or effort other than adding more volume to what I'm already making and then putting part of it into containers. Speaking of containers that you put into, I highly recommend glass containers. As long as you're not cooking anything in the container, typically plastic is fine, but I know a lot of people are conscious of plastics in their food. So the longer the food is sitting in there, or if you put it in hot and it cools in there, you're starting to get microplastics in your food. So I recommend investing in some good glass containers if you don't have them already. You can pretty much get them anywhere if you don't have them. I mean, your Amazon, your Walmart, your Target, wherever, they're gonna have glass containers. And again, because we don't overly prep, you don't have to have your refrigerator full of pre-prepped food. You don't have to have so many of these glass containers. So get a bundle of them, and then you have your glass containers for your prep through the week. So that is how I prep. And then each night I also do my overnight oats. So again, not a massive prep that I have to do once a week. I'm actually doing that as part of my evening routine each night. A lot of times I default to eggs for lunch just because it's easy. I'll have some eggs with a whole wheat tortilla. If I have some rice or beans, I might put that in there. I might put a salsa in there or have some veggies with it. Maybe some avocado, but I default to eggs a lot for lunch, but also I'm often having my taco bowls or something that I've already pre-cooked. And then for dinner, oftentimes I'll cook double of what I need. So if I'm cooking a chicken dinner tonight, I'll cook double of that. So we can have the chicken tonight and then we can have it 2 days from now. And then if I'm cooking my chili mac, I'll cook double of it and then we can have it 2 days later. So that way I get more out of it and I'm not prepping a lot or preparing a lot once a week, but I'm just preparing more as I'm preparing through the week as well. The other thing to pre-prep is your snacks. So if you put some nuts and berries in some pre-packed snack boxes or snack bags, that way it's quick to grab. So anything that you might prepare as snacks, those are good to do once a week or twice a week. So you kind of get those into pre-packaged bags so you can just grab those through the week. And then anything with fruits and vegetables, it's a good time to, after you purchase your produce, you can come home and if you need to wash anything, rinse anything, cut up anything, you can do that. But again, you can also do that through the week. So for example, if I'm not going to eat any berries today, but I am tomorrow, maybe tomorrow, and I'm not as busy tomorrow, I'll wash all my berries and take care of them tomorrow if I don't have the time today. It's really about trying to fit it into your schedule. If you have an hour after you go grocery shopping, awesome. Take that time, do all of it right then so it's all done. Otherwise, incorporate it through your week based on when you have time. And based on when you're already preparing something, for example, chicken or your taco bowls or your eggs for breakfast. So that's really around planning and prep. And so again, I just want to highlight, it's really important to be planning and prepping your meals each week. It helps with your grocery shopping. It helps with decision fatigue as well. If you plan one time for the week, you're not trying to think at 5, 6 o'clock at night, what the heck are we going to have for dinner? And do I have what I need in my cabinet or in my fridge or in my freezer? Or crap, I forgot to defrost the chicken because I didn't think that we might have chicken tonight. So that prep is going to help with your grocery shopping, help with the decision fatigue. And then the planning is really going to also help with making sure you stay on budget, making sure you're not wasting food, making sure you're eating the right nutrient dense food that you need to support your overall health, wellness, your hormones, your family, so that they're getting their nutrition that they need as well. So again, Erin with Emma K Enterprises, I hope this video was helpful. Be sure to subscribe so you can get more wellness videos on our 52-week journey. Again, this is week 4, meal planning and prepping for overall health and nutrition. Thanks again.